All right. We are back at the Grit Won't Quit studio. We have Beth Conway from Compass Sales Training and Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, NJ Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing good. How about you?
I am good. It's a beautiful day out. I'm excited to have our conversation because you have an interesting thing going on, and I'm excited to hear about it. So, tell me about you getting into sales.
Yeah, I started in sales at about 14 years old. I got my first job on the Seaside Heights boardwalk.
Awesome.
T-shirts and, the belly button piercings. I didn't do piercings, but, I'd be like...
You would sell them.
For $45, you could get this dangly belly ring.
So you would advertise for the piercers.
Yep.
All right. And what made you want to do that?
I needed a job.
You needed a job.
I needed a job, and, I worked more hours than all my friends.
So you were always a hustler.
I just was making, I made a lot of money as a kid. Who wouldn't want to work on the boardwalk? It's
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And you grew up down there, so it was easy.
I'd go to the beach during the day and, rinse off on the beach and then go to work.
I love it. So what was your first sale on the boardwalk?
My first sale on the boardwalk would have been like a T-shirt or a sweatshirt. Back in the day, you print it, and then you could get it, bejazzled.
With the bubble letters.
Maybe you get like a cross on there, and then maybe some skulls, and, get the wax.
And at 14 years old, you're just selling these things.
Yeah.
And loving it.
Loving it.
So then let's fast forward a little bit. So you fast forward, you sell other things on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And then you go into a more high pressure sales.
Yeah. After college, I went to work on cruise ships. And I traveled the world selling artworks on the cruise ships at large auctions.
So how'd you get into that? I wouldn't even know where to start with that one.
So I really wanted to work in New York City in an art gallery.
Okay.
So I went to the city one day really thinking I'm slick, dress, little kitten heels, 98 degrees, resumes printed. I go in all these, galleries in New York, and they want interns. I'm not going to work for free.
And you got to get there.
And I'm walking, I'm sweating in the city. These people are not friendly. I'm a Jersey girl. What do I know?
Yep.
And I went online, and I just typed in cruise ship jobs. And I saw art auctioneer, and I was like, well, let's kill two birds with one stone. And I went to Michigan and did, very intense, art. I had to learn how to auction and, do auctions. And then within, a few weeks, I was, in Europe and selling art on the high seas.
How cool was that?
Best experience of my entire life.
How many years did you do that for?
2 years.
And you just went on different cruise ships?
I did. I did 5 cruise lines.
Good for you.
Yeah. It was really, because I'm very much a Jersey girl.
Yeah.
So to, go to Egypt. And I only thought I'd see those things in books, or here where everybody's, very Italian, to go to Italy, and so that was a really cool.
That sounds awesome.
It was the best decision.
You were early 20s, so what better time?
Yeah, you go on a cruise ship, and then it was I'm like, oh, everybody's playing flip cup. This is great.
So you got an extension for 2 more years of college.
Essentially, yeah.
I love it. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Rider University.
Awesome. Did you stay there?
Yeah, I lived on campus.
Yep. Perfect. I think that's the best way to go to college. To go to college and commute just doesn't seem like the thing for me.
I'd come home, and I get food for my mom. She'd do my laundry,
and then you're back at it. Then you're back playing flip cup.
Yep.
All right. So you do this for 2 years, and then you go into.
I sold more art in galleries.
Uh-huh.
I sold some art in galleries in Cape May, St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh, cool.
I really liked it down there. And then a girlfriend called me. And she said, hey, we've got this job open. And I'm like, I know nothing about, oncology. And she was like, but you can sell. I was like, okay. So I flew home and I interviewed. And then I started my career in live event sales for large oncology conferences. Mm-hmm. So I'd run the Miami Breast Cancer Conference. And I would sell exhibit space and large sponsorships to, big pharma.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they have a big budget for that kind of stuff. They love that kind of stuff.
Banners are $30,000.
Wow.
The size of this wall.
Yeah. Try doing that in Ocean County.
Yeah.
Let me know how that one goes. But Big Pharma, they love those things. They love those trade shows. And
yeah. And I loved what I did, but it didn't really align with who I was as a person. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going to the American Dental Association. Mm-hmm. Really cool. Loved that because I could sell print, digital, and live events. So I felt like it really took all of my experience. And I
Yep.
got to shine.
And so then what happened? You were there for a while.
I was there, and then there was a day where I was on a Zoom call, and my daughters are in the back, and they clearly need me. And it's like 5:05, it's 5:10, it's 5:15, and I'm like, these kids need me, and these people see this, and nobody cares.
No one's saying anything.
Nobody cares.
Yep.
Everybody can see I have chaos going on behind me, and no one is like, you know what? Let's wrap this up. And I just thought, I don't care anymore. So I went, I gotta go, and in the chat, and I shut my laptop, and I called my manager, and I resigned.
Was your manager surprised, or?
Yes, yeah. Because then the first thought is, where are you going? Where are you going? You've got to not compete. Where are you gonna go? And I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna do something for Beth.
Bet on Beth.
Bet on Beth.
I love it. So now you're betting on Beth. So what happens next?
It's been really interesting. I spent a lot of time in the past year going to different chambers, whether that's Princeton Mercer, Jersey Shore. I joined Tom's River. And that was great. I got to meet a lot of people. And then I thought, I could help teach people while I'm here. So I've got a couple speaking engagements at different chambers, speaking in Hudson County next week. This will be the third time that Jersey City is bringing me in to speak to their business owners.
That's pretty cool, because that's an hour and change from you. So it's like they really must like your stuff, because again, they're not going to just have you come in and if they didn't see value in it.
Yeah, I went to their business summit last year, and I got there and I was like, how did this event get on my radar? At first I was confused with myself, what made me pick a Jersey City Resource Summit? But I followed up with them after, and I was like, hey, I feel like I could offer you guys some value. I feel like your members can leave with more actions that they can do that day, and I'll volunteer my time. And they ended up giving me my own workshop, 3.5 hours for minority-owned businesses. Wow. And then I was back yesterday and did a virtual workshop, and next week they have over 300 people registered to go to this event, and I'm going to be speaking in one of the time slots. So
awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a great chamber to be able to get 300 people, because most chamber events are 40 to 50 people.
This one is with it's the Hudson County Office of Business Opportunity. So it is, it's a lot of small business owners, people who've never been in sales. They've got a pitch, but there's maybe more passion than features and benefits. Mm-hmm. There's maybe they're not leading with the value in working with them. What's their key differentiator? Mm-hmm. What sets you apart from other people? And so I love to give people that edge. That way, when they walk into a room, when they stand in front of a group of people, what they're saying has real value.
Awesome. So you've been doing this a little over a year.
Yep.
And you love it?
I love it.
Like last year when you closed that laptop and called your manager, that had to be a little bit scary. You have 2 young children, from what you've told me.
Yeah.
And the chaos that was behind the Zoom call. So you have 2 young children. Most people would be a little nervous to just quit on the spot like that.
Yeah, and it was very nerve-wracking. But one of the first things that I did is that, I had a little bit of a cushion. Mm-hmm. I hired a mindfulness mom coach, because I felt like, the balance of me being this kick-ass salesperson.
You could
versus,
say ass on. You could say
that's
ass.
the reality. A kick-ass salesperson.
On the podcast, we allowed ass. So she was a kick-ass
salesperson. But I felt like I was a mediocre mommy,
okay.
Because it was easier to sit at a computer and sell millions of dollars than, cook breakfast and lunch and dinner and be a good and present mom. So, I had a yelly mom. I didn't want to be a yelling mom. So I got a mindfulness mom coach, and I just used that time to have peace in my home, create that for me and my children. And
do you want to give a shout out to the?
Yeah. It was Dana Farish with I think it's the Mindfulness Mom, and she really transformed our life. It was, really the quality of life we live now is so different than it was a year ago. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. I love that.
Thank you. So,
I love to hear success stories.
In the morning when I talk to, it's look at how far we've come, and everybody's in a good mood and good vibe when we walk out the door and when we go to sleep at night.
Now, your 8-year-old, does she see the change?
110%.
The young one hasn't probably seen, but your 8-year-old can totally see it?
Yeah. And we talk about, if we have a disagreement, how much sooner we come together, how much sooner we both apologized. I'm sorry. And now it's more like, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm like, you don't have to be sorry. No, you don't have to be sorry. It's just
what's
such
gonna be great? That's gonna help her in school with friends too.
Yeah.
Like that whole, I think a lot of times people, give up on a friendship over something very small in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone's okay to say sorry, I think
Yeah.
that a lot of friendships would be further along.
And I didn't have those tools.
Yeah.
I read the books and I listened to the podcasts, but this was a woman where on the spot I could send her like a WhatsApp message and be like, hey Dina, this is what we're going through right now. And she would respond back to me and say, okay, take a deep breath. Like, give yourself some grace. This is what, your daughter's looking for in this moment, and this is how you can handle it. And I'd be like, okay, because my brain didn't have those, just like what I teach in a different way, she taught me in this way.
That's awesome. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's great. So now everybody at home
We're vibing.
Everybody's cool. Everybody giving out high fives at home, and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So now your new business that's a year old is kind of starting to take off.
Yeah.
So you have this great sales training now. Then you started to gear into cannabis. Well, what brought you to the cannabis sales side of things, or sales training side?
So I've always been plant passionate, let's say, and I see that there are a lot of businesses that are popping up, and there's a lot of competitors, and so dispensaries and cultivators, vendors, and ancillary businesses are going to need a key differentiator. What sets you apart from the guy across the street? And for me, that's customer service and additional sales tools. You can build rapport in 2 minutes. It can be done. It doesn't have to just be an order taking exchange, and people buy from people they like and trust. And so if people don't have a ton of experience in that way, I can give them tools that in ways they feel comfortable, that's authentic to them.
Are you a hands-on coach, or do you have like do you have a podcast or like a audio books, or
no,
how do you
everything
do
is
most
custom.
Of your training? Okay.
Everything. What I like to do is I like to come in and I want to hear about you and your business. I want to hear about what your challenges are. What's your most heard objection? What do you do when you've emailed a customer 3-4 times and they don't respond? Do we have non-sales touch points? Do you get on a call and hop right into a demo, or do you ask your prospect 15 minutes worth of qualifying questions? Do you highlight features and benefits and those kind of things? So I really try and take a consultative approach, because it's not one size fits all.
It's not. I would agree with you 100%. And I think that's the right way to do it. That's how I would do it, because again, not every customer is the same, and not every business owner is the same. So kind of teaching on the consultative basis, I think makes sense. And how is the cannabis industry taking to you?
I mean, it's really taking off very well.
Yeah.
I went to a very large event in Atlantic City last weekend called NECAN. And there was a lot of exhibitors that were dispensaries, cultivators, different vendors, and it's going to be a very big business in New Jersey. And so I really want to help folks that maybe don't have a ton of sales experience, have a passion, have a business idea, and coach them and help them. And it's been wonderful, because a lot of times I'll help small businesses and I'll say, just give me a good referral. And they're like, really, that's it? And I'm like, yeah, sometimes that can mean more than what I would charge someone is a positive review, a recommendation, or an introduction to say,
someone else,
hey, you should meet Beth. So that has been, I talked to one guy, I think he's made like 8 introductions for me. Yeah, and he's a payment processor. So now I say, if you need payment processing, you got to talk to Dominic. And so I love that.
Now, he's just a payment processor. He has nothing to do with the cannabis industry.
No.
Specifically, he's just a good...
He just is someone, when I needed a payment processor that I found, there was maybe 4 or 5 people who responded to me on LinkedIn and said, I can help you. So I talked to everybody. Everybody said, okay, we're going to start working on it. But he was the one who, by the end of the day, sent 2 emails to people already in the industry. And I was like, okay, well, obviously I'm going with you.
Yeah, sure.
So then I went back to everybody else and I said, hey, I met somebody else. He made me introductions. This is who I'm going to move forward with. And since then, it's just only continued. And so I love that.
Great. So now, how's the Chamber of Commerce taking shape?
So it's been interesting, because the title, it was difficult to get a bank, so it's the New Jersey Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. So we'll have memberships and sponsorships. We'll have monthly events, similar to other chambers, but a little bit different.
But this is statewide, which is a
statewide.
little bit different than the average Chamber of Commerce, because now you're servicing a much larger area compared to like just the Jersey Shore or just Bricktown or Tom's River, etc. Now you're kind of statewide. So how are you thinking about, like, because you're going to have different things for different people, like some of the people from the Jersey Shore might not go up to Bergen County or Passaic, so that you'll have different events and kind of things that will be for each of the local areas? Yeah,
I think one of the keys to success is going to be collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can partner with other chambers to host multi-chamber events.
Yep.
So if you think about it this way, if we host an event and it's only people in the cannabis industry, there's only so much room for growth from there. But if it's the Cannabis Chamber and it's the Hudson County Chamber, if it's the Cannabis Chamber and the New Jersey Chamber, the Cannabis Chamber and the Women's New Jersey Chamber, now the prospecting pool for all of those businesses is going to increase. And now there's huge opportunities for education, which also will help that prospecting pool. The more educated your potential customers are, the more likely you'll buy.
Totally. I think that's great. And how long have you been doing that?
I got the idea probably like 6 months ago, and it's been, a chunk, because I got to come up with the content for the website and, build the site and the payment and the bank and board members.
Good thing you got Dominic.
Yeah. So, it's been definitely a challenge, but we would like to host an event for women in the fall for like New Jersey Women in Cannabis and bring women together and give them resources, and then also other groups throughout the state as well. We'd like to set up committees and make sure voices are heard, and then this is a nonprofit. So with the money we bring in from memberships and sponsorships, we want to partner with different organizations so that way we can, adjust the culture in New Jersey.
It's great. You got a lot of good ideas. So it was like you had to leave corporate because you didn't have time for that. You have too many things that you want to do on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And every day probably is like a new, I know for me, it's every day's a new day. So like, even if yesterday wasn't great or yesterday was good, and you can make it better today.
Yeah, and I thought about before I came here is, I wanted to get away from the 9 to 5, but now it's like a 24/7 grind.
Totally, the 9 to 5. That's every entrepreneur though. Every entrepreneur doesn't want to work at 9 to 5, but yet they work. Last night I was on a tech support call for one of our clients at 11:30 last night, and I'm like, but you don't think twice about it. Meanwhile, if you're working for the man, you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So I totally get that. I think what you're doing is awesome. I'm really happy to hear of all the success. A lot of people are scared to make that jump, and I hope that people that are listening to this podcast realize, like, you made a jump really without you had a little cushion, but you made a jump, not a planned jump. Like a lot of times, it's I know when I was leaving, I thought about it 6 months ahead of time, and it was calculated. It was ready. I was ready to go. It sounds like you just got one day was just enough.
Yeah.
And that's but it sounds like within a year you've exceeded kind of where you've been and on to bigger and better.
Yeah, if I had heard, I think a good way to describe it is where I am right now today, right here.
Yep.
This is where I dreamed to be a year ago. Right?
Yep.
A year ago, if I said, this is where you're going to be, this is what you're going to be doing, I'd be like, obviously. Like, that's exactly where I want to be.
If the podcast line wasn't longer, I would have had you on earlier. And didn't you, in the summer,
I think I was supposed to be on, but then I knew that I was kind of doing the chamber thing, but the chamber wasn't in a place where I would have been ready to talk about it.
So just cancel and push it back.
So we push it back, and I thought, okay, now, I know what I'm talking about. I've got to focus, and now, I just got to go.
Perfect. Now, what's the plan as I'm sure you've started to think about it, with all these irons in the fire that you have, are you going to look to get employees? How are you going to look to get to that next stage of business?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the chamber, we're in the process of building an executive board and board members.
Cool.
But I will need help. With putting on events. And then for my sales training business, same thing. I'd love to be in a place where I'm coaching and training other folks to help other businesses.
It seems like that's your strong point is coach. You're the coach's coach sometimes too, right?
Yeah, because if you think about it, like I'm a small business owner. I don't have a boss. Yeah. So I hire someone to be my business coach. So if I have, let's say, a big presentation, or I got an objection, I'm just not sure where to go, I book time with Steve or Jeff, and I walk them through what I've got going on, and then and I'm like, oh, it's a great idea. Okay, let me try that, and I try everything they tell me to do, and it works.
How did you meet up with those guys? Do you want to give them a shout out?
Yeah, for sure. So, I can't remember Steve's last name now, so that's kind of a bummer. And Jeff Goldberg. Jeff actually was my corporate sales trainer when I was in corporate.
Sure.
I'd sit in this room with like 35 people, and I'd be like, pick me, And he would always be like, Beth knows. We know Beth is paying attention, because I just wanted to learn.
Yeah.
I always want to be better.
You that teaches Pat, always raising your hand as a kid?
Yeah, because I want to be the absolute best.
I love it.
And even the best has room for improvement.
Every day. If you're not learning every day,
you're not growing.
Falling behind.
Yep.
So I think that's great. So awesome! I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
You weren't nervous coming on today, were you?
No, I definitely was nervous.
Salesman by trade, selling on the boardwalk at 14 years old, and you're nervous to get on a little camera at a podcast in Belmar? I don't believe it. But I think what you're doing is awesome. I love to hear this success, and I can't wait to hear more.
Thank you.
This is really cool, and you're like at the beginning stages of a lot of things. And cannabis is new to New Jersey for the most part. A chamber is never heard of for that industry. So, and then plus the sales coaching, and training.
I love it. And it's my relationships within my communities are growing, and I really love that.
And we met at a networking event.
Yeah.
You were at Rosie's or
Rosie's.
Seaside Social. So that's great. I think that's awesome. So as we wrap up today, let people know where they can find you online, on social, however you want to be contacted.
Yeah, so for socials, I most frequent LinkedIn, so it's Beth Conway. And then my website is www.compasssalestraining.com. And then we've also recently launched the www.njcannabischamber.com.
njcannabischamber.com. All right. Well, this was great. Thanks again for coming in, and I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Have a great day.